Hey folks, welcome back. Well, this is going to be I think part 7 now of this video installing this aftermarket air conditioning system on this 1972 I was going to say Chevelle, but El Camino. Front half is a Chevelle, I guess you could say. So basically, I think since the last video we left off, we still had to do the valve, which is, it's tucked back in there, and I'm not going to be able to get a camera shot of it, but you got your 2 heater hose lines running to that valve, based on this schematic right here. They do have a couple of things here, like this, it's saying it's not a blend system, so you really shouldn't be opening like the heater valve, when operating the air conditioning. You need to have coolant in there that's at least to -10, they say. This right here, what this means is you need to, run the heater first before you actually charge the AC system. So that's what we did. Got in here and made sure that we had good heat blowing out of the dash, and then also the defrost. I mean, we tested all that stuff before, but this time, starting the car, make sure that it actually gets warm, and then went through and checked to make sure there was no leaks or anything like that anywheres as far as coolant leaks and whatnot. Right now I've got this thing under a vacuum. I did get another belt here, but this is also a 56-inch belt, and we're right at the end of the adjustment. This is really tight, but I went ahead and ordered a 54-inch belt, which goes back to the trick that I did with the wire in one of the earlier videos, where we had 53.5 inches. That's pretty much what we needed to have. Basically, check out the other videos, but I wrapped a piece of wire around all the pulleys, tightened them up, and then went ahead and just cut the wire and measured it. So anyways, yeah, we've got everything all put back together as far as the fender goes. I said we ran the car. Our alignment is perfect. V-belts are a little forgiving as far as misalignments to a point. I don't know how much, but they can be a little bit, but our alignment is absolutely perfect. So I'm digging that. Which means, our power steering pump is aligned good like it's supposed to be, and everything like that. You can see that this belt, does go all the way down to the crank pulley, but we also do have a belt on the power steering pump itself. As I stated before, that's not really much of an angle that would have put much pressure on that particular belt to just have it. So basically I needed, in this application, needed to have this other belt on here. So anyways, what we got going on now is we've got this thing under a vacuum, and it's probably been pretty much we're 3.5 minutes into this video, so basically it's been under a vacuum for about 5 minutes, and so we're gonna just let this go for about a half hour, 45 minutes. I mean, there shouldn't be a lot of, but a lot of these hoses were open on one side of them and everything like that. So there could be some moisture and everything like that. That's part of putting it under vacuum, is to get all the moisture out. So basically, that's the best way to do it, is just to do the vacuum for a good 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes and everything like that. And then once you do the vacuum, make sure it'll hold the vacuum. We'll close these valves off, shut the vacuum pump off, and make sure that these gauges stay here for a good another 30 minutes or more, even if you want to make sure you don't have any leaks, because they should stay exactly where they are at right now if there's no leaks. And then that'll tell you that we can go ahead and charge this system, and we'll just talk about that while we are waiting for this thing here. We'll talk about what they want to do, or what they want in this system as far as how much Freon and everything like that. And then I'm going to talk about Freon that I'm going to use, because it's going to be a little bit different, but the stuff works absolutely amazing. Okay, so right here, you know, this is where it's talking about, you know, the least 45 minutes. You know, this is a given right here. When charging the system, you're gonna have to put at least, you know, 12 to 18 before the pressure safety switch will even engage the compressor clutch, because as we talked about with the wiring, you know, the wiring that comes from the relay that's under the dash and comes all the way through, right now it's coming all the way through here and coming in here to the switch, and then from the switch it proceeds and goes on around town over here to the compressor. So if this switch right here is open, as it is right now, because right now you could start this car up, turn the AC button on, and this compressor clutch will not try to engage because this pressure safety switch is open, and I confirmed that that works. So right now the compressor clutch can't come on. That's kind of a safety thing, as far as, you know, even this will help with performance of the AC system. And, you know, if it gets too cold or whatever, it'll click it off, but you lose all your Freon somehow or another. Won't let you click the compressor on there, because then you'll burn it up and all kinds of not so good stuff will happen after that. So basically, so right here, our 12 systems will require 30 to 36 ounces of Freon. So we're not going to be worried about that. Our 134A systems will require 28 to 32 ounces. An exact charge of 134A is, you know, a little bit more critical than R12, but that's, you know, it's not going to be too bad. But basically what's going to change some of that is, you know, we cut quite a bit of this hose off just going this distance right here. So what if we routed this hose in a different way and there was more of it to get over to here? You know, that could have been a possibility. If that happened, then that would be why we would require more Freon. So basically what we're going to end up doing is we're going to put about 28 ounces in, and then we'll you know, just see how the system you know, works and everything like that. And if we got to put in a little bit more, we will, you know, and that's just going to be based on, it's not really that hot today. You know, we're getting the system basically put in time just for winter. It would have been nice to do this a month or two ago, but it just didn't happen that way. But yeah, anyways, based on the pressures and all that kind of stuff, what we're reading, we'll figure out if we need to add any more, but we'll start out with 28. So anyways, let's talk about the Freon. Okay, so this is what we're using. I mean, this particular brand and everything like that is not, you know, sponsored or anything like that. This is just stuff that I have used all this summer, and I've probably used in probably about maybe 7-ish different vehicles or something like that this summer. One being my 79 Lincoln Continental, and I charged that system back up in, it was about May, maybe early part of June, I can't remember, with this stuff here. And that system has been working phenomenal. It gets, you know, on a 100-degree day, it will be putting out about anywhere from 38 to 40 degrees or something like that. You know, just cruising down the highway at 55, 65 miles an hour or something like that. Obviously, it's not going to be putting out 40 when you're in town, but, you know, anywhere from 47 to 50 is pretty good in town on a 100-degree day. So this stuff works really, really well. Now, the reason I bought it was mainly for the price. It was about $12, maybe almost not quite $13 a can, which when I bought it, I thought, you know, like this was going to be like 2 12-ounce deals or something like that, and it's close. It says that it's equivalent to 21 ounces of your HFC 134A, but it only has 8 ounces in here. And sure enough, my Lincoln took about, I think you'd have to check those videos out, but I think it was going to be about 52 ounces is what that particular, and it was originally an R12 system, so you had to go less than, you know, like 64 ounces was what it originally took with R12. So putting in about anywhere from 48 to 52 is going to be about right. You know, going about 25 or so % less R134A, which is kind of the rule of thumb when you're converting systems over. So anyways, you know, 2 of these cans right here is going to equal 42 ounces. And so then going with another, basically another half, which, you know, would add, okay, another 10, so that's 50, you know, that's close to 52. And I think it wasn't quite a half, but it's hard to judge a little bit, you know. That's what we did based on what it says that this is equivalent to. But we only ended up putting, let's see, 16, and then half would be, we only put 20 ounces of this stuff in here, but that's equivalent to 40 or 48, 50, whatever. I mean, my math isn't good in my head, but that's the interesting thing about this. I don't know what the how the chemistry and all that's way beyond what I could figure out. So anyways, with this deal right here, if we're gonna put 28 ounces in here, it's pretty much gonna be that we're gonna put 1 full can in here, and then we're gonna put, you know, maybe a third, close to about a third. That ought to get us pretty close. We might stick to maybe the 30 ounces or something like that. We might just, you know, round that off or whatever. So, you know, so if we put 21, and then we go in here to put another half, it's going to be, so if we say, you know, 10-ish, you know, I know that's not half, so. So as you can see, it gets pretty cold. It's probably, you know, 70 degrees in here. It's probably, you know, 75, 77 or something outside or whatever. I don't have all my fans and cooling and all that stuff going, but you know, that's pretty dang cold for 70 degrees in here abouts. You know, and right now we're just kind of watching, making sure that, you know, these pressures are going to eventually equalize, you know, and be right, you know, should be about 100 or so, give or take. There's probably a science behind, you know, I don't know all the exact what pressures, but, you know, these pressures, when this system is off, are going to be higher the hotter it gets and the hotter the engine and all. I mean, there's a lot of factors involved with that, especially since, you know, like right now the condenser is sitting right next to the radiator with this thing here running. I think this has got looks to me like it's got a 180 degree thermostat, because that's about, you know, where it goes. 180, 185 or something like that is what it kind of tends to run at here at idle. You know, and about 1500 RPM or so, that's when this thing cools, you know, clear down to almost 30 degrees. Now what can be done is, if that cools down too much, you remember there's that thermostat underneath that we, you know, saw in the other videos installing, that goes into the evaporator. You can adjust that, which I'll probably adjust it down just a little bit now that it's getting, you know, more into, you know, where you're not going to be using AC really like you would in the summer. but more so just, you know, like for a day like today, you hop in the car, if it was outside, if you park it somewhere, you know, I mean, it's gonna be pretty, you know, somewhat hot in the cab or whatever. But what that, you know, we saw from the I think it was part 3 when we did the electrical wiring or something like that, where we, you know, that particular thermostat that's in there, once you adjust it, what it does is if it reaches its point to where it's adjusted at, is it opens up and it just interrupts this circuit right here, which goes to the compressor, which shuts it off for a little bit, and then once the temperature comes back in its range again, then it closes and restarts the compressor again. And that way the system doesn't get, you know, too cold on you. That's kind of why they have that designed there. So anyways, as far as, you know, I think we'll talk a little bit about, you know, how the system operates, the installation and all that kind of stuff. I might give it a 1 out of 10 scale on installation and all that kind of stuff, just, you know, because anyways, yeah, we'll probably just do that. Okay, so as far as you know, the installation and everything on a 1 out of 10 scale, this is including, you know, the instructions and the parts and all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty much gonna give it a 9 out of 10. It was pretty easy to and pretty, you know, and the instructions are pretty good. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with it, you know. I mean, you know, it's hard to make something like this instruction wise, you know, to make sure that everybody understands it. You know, obviously if you don't have a whole lot of mechanical background, I think you could still do it if you just, you know, just go by the instructions, and, you know, you got to have something. I don't know, I can't really say based on, you know, how your skills and all that kind of stuff are, you know. But like when I first got this system and opened up the box and was looking at all the parts and was looking at, you know, the instructions and reading through them and stuff like that, I mean, none of this stuff made any sense to me when I was reading through it. But just as I started looking at the parts and started, you know, going by each step as how it was laid out in here, it started making a lot more sense. And then as I've done this before, now that I've done it and completed it, basically, yeah, I'd say it's a you know, 9 out of 10 as far as installation goes. There was not really anything much other than the deal that right here that we had to notch out, and I don't, you know, fault that. It could just be the style or brand of headers, I don't know, but that's what we had to do there as far as any modifications. But other than that, there really wasn't. I pretty much put everything together mostly how they designed it, without really knowing where, you know, they didn't put anything in the instructions as to say where these hoses should go or anything like that. I just kind of just, you know, did it the best I thought that it was going to work in this car. Obviously in this car I've got more, you know, wiring and all that kind of stuff from previous things that still need to be cleaned up, but you know, for the most part everything just fit in here, and it's a great great system. As far as the operation goes, there's going to be 2 scales based on operation, is 2 1 out of 10 scales, and that's going to be depending on its use. If you are using this system in a car, in a region like, you know, we live, where we've got winter and stuff, and you don't drive a car like this in any bad weather or anything like that, this system right here is probably going to be, you know, a 7 out of 10. And I give it that because I think even in this box, somehow or another, they could have made some kind of a blend system, so that you could just turn this down a little bit to have a blend feature. that would be pretty nice. I think they, you know, I mean, there's going to be a little bit more stuff, maybe a bigger box, but you can see, you know, there could be some more room that it could come out this way a little bit more. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, especially for them or anything like that. I'm just explaining what I'm thinking. If you were, you know, lived somewhere, Arizona, California, where they have, you know, fairly nice weather where you could drive a car like this year round, but you might have some cold times or something like that. You may want some floor heat or something. We don't have that. This only just comes out the dash, and it only comes out the defrost, and you're really only supposed to run it one or the other. So if you're running it, you know, with AC, you want it all the way cold. If you're running it with the heat, you should have it all the way, you know, probably don't have to with the heat. You know, you might be able to, but really all you're doing is you're just closing that valve out there to shut off the flow to the, like I said, it doesn't have a blend door per se. And I don't know how much more it would be to engineer something like that into this particular system. But, you know, if you're wanting more features and all that kind of stuff, you know, obviously you'd have to go with something else. If you had more of a daily driver type of a vehicle that, you know, you'd want all that kind of stuff. It's got all the important things, such as defrost, probably the most important thing, because that's probably anything I could think of that you would actually like need, is defrost, because, you know, that's a safety thing or whatever. But so we do have that, but other than that, it's just, you know, dash or defrost, hot or cold, basically. So yeah, that's, I'd probably give it a, you know, 5 out of 10 based on that. And in that case, it's just not the system for you. If that's the way, you know, if you're daily driving a vehicle like that, it's just not really gonna, you know, if you're in it all the time, you know. But, you know, something like this car, you know, it gets driven sometimes, you know, on a weekend or something like that, you know, maybe to ice cream store or something, you know, or I mean, there's a lot of different reasons, but we're taking it to a car show or something like that, and you know, and just using the AC and stuff most of the time during summer, it's going to be great. It's going to work just fine for that. You know, and then occasionally, you know, on this time of year, you know, you might need the heat on a little bit in the morning, and then you might use AC in the afternoon. You know, you can do that with this system. It'll be okay, you know. That's why I'm probably going to adjust that knob underneath it here, which is, you know, what I'm talking about is that guy right there. You know, we installed it in a previous video, but, you know, that's really what that does. So, so yeah, basically that's really all I got. I mean, this system cost about $1,700 just to buy the whole works. You know, obviously there's a few things that I've added, which, you know, did some of my own screws in certain areas and things like that. For the most part, I used pretty much almost everything they had in the system, and you know, didn't purchase a whole lot of extra stuff, and pretty much put everything together in my mind, for the most part, how it was supposed to go, with exception of the ducting that's over here. You know, I didn't do the additional assembly that it would have been to take that plastic ducting that would have ran for this vent right here. All I did was just shove the hose into it almost all the way out to right here, and I mean, it blows just as much air as that one does. And each of these two, I mean, it's fine. It works great that way. Doesn't mean that that's going to be the way it's always going to be. I could actually, you know, if I want to, I've got plenty of hose in there where I could take that piece out of there and actually put the piece that goes on there, which would look just like that one. I don't have my light, but you can see it's just kind of a reducer that goes down from you know, what looks like 4 inches down to about 2 inches, if I had to guess. You know, and the ease of operation is, you know, I mean, it's simple to operate and everything like that. You know, you got 3 speeds for your fan. You got 1, 2, and 3. You know, this being your off. You know, and then you got dash and defrost, and warm and cold. And that's essentially what this is doing right here. Is that valve is shut off. So what it means by shut off is it's bypassing, does not send any hot coolant to the heater core until you move this into this position, and then it's open, and now it's circulating coolant through the heater core. And you could have that obviously coming out your dash too if you want. You know, if you just needed a little bit of heat in the cab and everything like that. So but anyways, as I said before, we used about 1.5 of these, which based on what it's equivalent to, that would be, you know, one full can here is 21 ounces versus another half is going to be, you know, 30 to 31 ounces. But that is actually only adding 8 ounces plus another 4 is only adding 12 ounces of actual whatever, you know, I mean, based on what this says it is. I don't know how that works. All I do know is while I was charging this, I think I opened this low side valve up, and after I had this thing with a vacuum, the stuff went in, and about 30 seconds later, the compressor kicked on. It actually never even cycled. It kicked on and it stayed on. So the pressures for this switch are pretty low, because we actually had this thing down here to about 2015-ish. I mean, it's hard to get when you get right down into this area, right about where my fingernail is, you know. And then revving up the engine, we got about, I mean, it's about 15, I'd say. It's pretty low. But that's really just kind of guessing as to how much, you know, that gauge pretty much says. So I don't really have much more information to give. You know, like I said, we measured, you know, here they said they'd use a 60 to 61 inch belt. That was going to be way too big for us, maybe because our power steering pump is not in the original factory location or something like that. Because of like that bracket right there, you know. So basically, I'm gonna go ahead and just get a, you know, that's a 56 inch belt. I'm gonna get like a 54 and try that, because you can see we're at the end of our tightness, and obviously it's working, it's tight, you know, but this belt could stretch a little bit, and we don't want to have that. You know, we just want to get it, you know, a little bit more in the half zone or something like that. And if I have to get a 55 inch belt, then probably have to do that, but we're going to start with the 54 and see if we can get that slipped on there. That'll be perfect. Even if it's clear back over here, that should be fine. And these, you know, these will obviously rotate over here, but according to the instructions, that says it's okay. So anyways, the plan is right now is just after, now that we've ran this car, we'll let it cool, open up the radiator, make sure we're all topped off with antifreeze, and you know, if anybody has any questions, obviously I can try to answer as much as I can, but you know, hopefully this you know, will help someone out, and I think that's going to be it on this. Maybe we'll do an updated, you know, video in the future. Probably won't, I mean, I don't, you know, won't be driving this thing too much with needing air conditioning, but it's gonna, supposedly it's gonna, as cold as it's getting now, it ought to work pretty dang good even when it's warmer out. So you know, and with a 180 degree thermostat, really shouldn't have too much overheating. So anyhow, hopefully that helps somebody out, and thanks for watching.